President of the SCDF says that Carnival 2020 was not cancelled. It was just postponed. President of WIFO very displeased with the management of the Maho Group of companies. And Minister of Finance defends his move to borrow money for liquidity support from the central bank. Those are the headlines for Thursday, October the 15th, 2020. Good evening, viewers. This is SXM Daily News. I am Valerie Van Putten. Thank you for joining me this evening. And as usual, we have a full newscast for you, so let's get started. In our first story, the 75 million guilder bond issue saga continues. When asked by a reporter at the Council of Ministers' weekly press briefing about the 75 million guilder bond issue, Minister of Finance, the Honorable Artuel Irion, in defending his move to borrow money for liquidity support from the central bank, says that Article 16, it clearly states that we are not allowed to borrow from capital expenditures. But according to the minister, we are not borrowing from capital expenditures. We are borrowing for liquidity support. And he expounds further.
Article 16 clearly states we are not allowed to borrow for capital expenditures. We are not borrowing for capital expenditure. We are borrowing for liquidity support. Second of all, Article 25, already passed with the initial budget, allows us to deviate. Right. It also doesn't state how much we're allowed to deviate by, and a couple other stuff. So we are, as Minister of Finance, I have requested this information from CFT for them to clarify their statements. It would have actually been better that if the CFT contacted me directly instead of going to the media and personally ask the ministry, what is this bond for that you're floating, right? Instead of saying you cannot float a bond for capital expenditure, which we are not doing. The request for capital expenditure did already go to CFT. We already put in a request from the 2019 bond that we already got approval from CFT in 2019, but HAL did not subscribe to. We did put in that request, which they know already, I believe about 2 weeks ago, for capital expenditure. And we put in a request for the refinancing of another bond that was issued in 2010. For the refinancing of that bond. So we put in official requests and advice for CFA on these two matters.
Meanwhile, Member of the Parliament for the United Democrats, Mrs. Sarah Westcott Williams, is also querying the central bank bond issue. The Member of Parliament says that it is beyond her that the Minister of Finance, together with the CBCS, would agree on a bond issue for the government of St. Martin, and thinking that this can be done without consultation with the CFT and or without taking the Kingdom law into consideration.
It is beyond me that the government of St. Martin and the Minister of Finance, together with the Central Bank of Curaçao and St. Martin, would agree on a bond issue for the government of St. Martin, and thinking that this can be done without consultation with the CFT and or without taking the Kingdom law on financial supervision into consideration. I've heard the argument that this loan, this bond issue to be written out by the central bank is for the liquidity position of government, is to strengthen the liquidity position of government, and therefore does not have to pass the scrutiny of the CFT and the Kingdom law on financial supervision. If this is government's argument, then I have to disagree. And for the reason that the CFT is involved in the budgetary process. They are involved in the budgetary process on the basis of the Kingdom law financial supervision. We are yet, as a parliament, to receive the amended draft budget 2020 promised to us since August of this year. And so even from that perspective, you can question how, or we should question how government could have arrived at this decision. It is also questionable how the Central Bank of Curacao and St. Martin could have written out this bond issue, could have issued the bond without giving attention to the role of the CFT in all of this. If I look at one of the last paragraphs of the letter of the CFT to the Minister of Finance regarding this process, then I cannot help but conclude that this matter cannot end well. And I say so because the paragraph that I'm referring to is one in which the CFT is admonishing the government of St. Martin to cease with this process of the bond issue. And while the CFT cannot take any measures if the government does not comply, the CFT is the advisor to the kingdom government, and they, yes, can take measures. And that is why I stated that I don't see how this matter can end well. In addition to that, you have where the issuance of a bond on behalf of government, so to raise money for government, is very much based on confidence as well. Confidence from the person subscribing to the bond issue, so the public of St. Martin. And with what is taking place now, that will only serve to erode a level of confidence that all should have to feel comfortable with a loan on behalf of government. And then we're talking of a loan, again from media reports, for the duration of 25 years. That's a long time at a rate of 5%. And even if, which I do not concur with, but even if the government is correct in its assumption that they and the Central Bank of Curacao and St. Martin could go ahead and make arrangements for a bond issue without taking into account the Kingdom Law on Financial Supervision.
Meanwhile, member of the anti-poverty platform, Dr. Rondas Raymond Gisseroun, in reaction to the same bond issue, says that the Minister of Finance says he did nothing illegal. But this minister, according to Mr. Gisseroun, has a track record of taking illegal decisions, and he expounded further.
The Minister of Finance, in the weekly press conference, informed the public that CFT has been asked to clarify their statement. He also explained that the CFT in that letter was quoting an article in the Kingdom Law on Financial Supervision, which was not applicable on this bond, which he said was needed to cover government operations, social charges, food vouchers, and other issues the government is faced with due to the pandemic. In clear statements, he assured the public that they are doing their best and are still in discussion with the CFT to comply with all the conditions the kingdom government is imposing to give liquidity support. The minister explained that he didn't do nothing illegal. As minister of the country, he has to come up with solutions for the liquidity he needs to finance the budget. He cautioned the press to translate the correct wording that the CFT has used. He did nothing illegal. Now, this Minister of Finance has a track record of taking illegal decisions. The 50% vacation pay of the civil servants, for instance, which he did not pay in June, is illegal. Unlawful. Even the General Order Chamber put it in writing. It was the CFT president who has recommended the Dutch government to give liquidity support to Sint Maarten as a loan, surpassing the debt to GDP ratio norm of 40%. The Caribbean members in the CFT have protested this and have argued for providing this liquidity support as a grant so that the debt to GDP ratio would not be surpassed. Even though the bond is very attractive for those who will inscribe. You get more money than when you put your money in the bank on a savings account. It will increase the debt to GDP ratio even more. That is a norm which is also in the Kingdom Law of Financial Supervision. As Consumer Coalition, we will provide our advice in the next segment.
And still to come, Member of Parliament for the PFP says that we must reflect on the entire 10 years and not just Hurricane Irma and COVID-19 pandemic. We'll have the details to that story and much more when SXM Daily News returns.
GEBE has been faithfully serving the communities of St. Martin, powering your home and our economy. Come rain or shine, our qualified team of professionals are working hard 24 hours a day to provide you and your family with safe, reliable electricity and water. We use the latest technologies and test our products daily to maintain the highest international standards. Our friendly staff is always there to assist you, whether in person, over the phone, or online. We are committed to constantly improving our products and services, making them more efficient, effective, and environmentally friendly to serve you better today and our next generation of clients tomorrow. GEBE, powering a brighter future.
Our friend Megawati is here with tips to save you energy. 1. Turn your airco temperature up. 2. Use a ceiling fan instead. 3. Buy energy-saving products. Save some green with NVGEBE.
And welcome back, viewers. You're watching SXM Daily News, and I'm Valerie Van Putten. As we continue with this evening's edition of the news, President of WIFO, Theophilus Thompson, is very displeased with the management of the Maho Group of companies. According to WIFO's president, that after years of making millions and so-called giving an indication that they have been doing well, he feels that they can continue to pay their workers their rightful salary. He elaborated further.
After years of making millions and so-called giving indication that they have been doing well, and from all indicators of their different developments and investments, they have been doing well. So they can continue to pay the workers their rightful salaries. And when government can agree with the Maho Group of companies to subsidize a training program and not providing the proper education facilities, I mean, if we are a tourist-oriented industry, then there should be that kind of facility in place to train workers. Establishing a foundation just to receive funding and without totally involving the employees' organization to give direction and guidance. Now we are in a dilemma where employees are told that the training is over and the concern of the continuation of receiving what was due to them, besides the stipend, which is their salaries. Now we have to go and deal with the new owners who, I must say, at the closure of Great Bay after the hurricane, there is a collective labor agreement which guaranteed the workers still employment with the new company. But it must be made clear that our laws need to be amended because our laws doesn't guarantee that kind of continuation. If there wasn't an article in the CLA which made provision that these workers remain employed if they were not terminated properly and legally, these employees would have been in a worse off condition. And my meeting that I mentioned earlier to be held at 12 o'clock would not have been possible. But because we have been proactive in talking to the new owners and to see what is their desire in terms of their economic participation in structuring or building this new structure, it would have been even a worse situation for the employees. But with the foresight and vision of the future beyond our laws, there's an article in the CLA which guarantee and provide that the new employer, and we have been saying this for a very long time, that our laws need to be amended and updated to accommodate the reality within our economy.
And in other news at this time, Member of Parliament for the People for Progress Party, the Honourable Melissa Gumbs, in her 10-10-10 message, which was held virtually on October the 12th, 2020, the Honourable MP said that 10-10-20 is a time of critical reflection and discussion, and that we must reflect on the entire 10 years and not just Hurricane Irma and the COVID-19 pandemic, because the issues we are facing now have existed for years.
Mr. Chairman, like my colleagues before me, I do believe that this is a time for critical reflection and discussion. We must reflect on the entire 10 years and not just focus on Hurricane Irma and COVID-19. These are bad things, but they're not the starting points for the social dilemmas facing country St. Martin. The issues we're experiencing now have existed for years. In fact, since many who voted in the 2020 election were children. The harsh reality of years of unresolved dilemmas have put harsh light on the crises that we've experienced since 10-10-10. I cannot think of a better time to, as they say, pull up the handbrake and take serious account of our situation so that we can all move forward with renewed vigor and focus. I've experienced this last decade from several viewpoints. On October 9th, 2010, I was living in the Netherlands. I, like many young St. Martiners pursuing their studies or careers abroad, wondered what the future held for our little island on the eve of 10-10-10. Were we as ready as we could be, considering the admitted rush to start us apart? Had our leaders prepared themselves for the immense responsibilities they were taking on? And had they prepared the people to face our new reality? And were we, as a people, prepared to make the occasional sacrifices that might be asked of us for the greater good? Because that is the true meaning of autonomy. Underneath pretty speeches and passionate debates, did we as a people recognize that self-governance includes self-sacrifice to protect the country? These were the questions in the minds of myself and many of our young professionals and students, some of whom have since returned home to join the public or private sector. Much has been said about the process to bring us to country status and how that process was rushed because we needed autonomy, we needed it immediately, and there were political situations happening in the Netherlands that kind of coaxed us along. I don't need to explain the saying of haste makes waste. It's what we were told as kids when we rushed through schoolwork only to receive a failing grade. And it usually sticks with us as adults when we consider signing contracts for loans or services or jobs. Rushing usually results in not reading the fine print, and that can be detrimental to the individual. So imagine the impact that rushing can have on an entire population. For us, it meant that we could not properly plan and prepare for the areas we knew we needed to build capacity in.
And as we continue now, Prime Minister of St. Martin, the Honourable Sylvania Jacobs, is reminding the community of St. Martin to be cautious in light of the COVID-19 pandemic. The minister made the plea at the Council of Ministers' weekly press briefing. She wants us to continue to work together to keep the numbers down.
In our efforts to continue to diminish the effects of COVID-19 on St. Martin, I continue to pledge and ask the people of St. Martin to keep up the great work that we are doing in ensuring the safety of all within our families, within our communities, out and about in the businesses and stores that we visit, public offices, etc. I commend the businesses for keeping the regulations at a very high standard. I ask for total compliance from the population to the regulations that have been set forth by the ministries of TEAT and VESA, and ask that we continue to work together, keeping the necessary social distance. I know that at times we want to get closer to each other, and I have seen a few instances myself which can lead to a dangerous super spreading event. Please avoid crowds, stay the necessary 1.5 to 2 meters from each other, proper face mask usage, hand washing, and respiratory etiquette. Limit as much as possible physical contact. This is still the only way that we can diminish the effects of COVID-19 on our population. We are seeing the numbers diminishing to some extent with recoveries, but every other day there is still another jump in new infections. We would like as much as possible to avoid those. And let us all work together to make St. Martin safe, for us to become more healthy, and that we can beat COVID-19 and grow our economy in the best interest of all concerned.
And in other news, the St. Martin Police Force, KPSM, has officially launched its campaign Armed Robbery, which is geared towards educating businesses on how to avoid becoming a victim of an armed robbery. The island has been suffering from an uptick of armed robberies over the past few months, which have not gone unnoticed by the KPSM. The Community Police Officers, the CPO, has put together a campaign targeted at helping businesses to protect themselves and their property from armed robbers, which will be carried out in the coming days. And SXM Daily News is expected to talk with the interim police spokesman, Inspector Josefa, about this campaign in more detail next week. Now, turning to our weather forecast for October the 15th, 2020. A tropical wave with a low potential for development is expected to produce an increase in cloudiness, showers, and thunderstorms as it passes through the region. Showers could become moderate to heavy and trigger localized flooding across St. Martin. Therefore, the general public is advised to take the necessary precautions. Additionally, marine conditions are expected to deteriorate and become rough, as winds are also expected to increase. Small craft operators and sea bathers should exercise extreme caution. A small craft advisory will be issued. So the outlook through Friday evening, partly cloudy, becoming cloudy at times with isolated showers. Now let's turn to your 3-day forecast. And still to come, President of the SCDF says that Carnival 2020 was not canceled. It was just postponed. We'll have the details to that story and more when SXM Daily News returns.
The innovative Banco-Matico contactless smart card. Your Banco-Matico smart card is now equipped with a contactless feature for payments, so get ready to tap and go. Contactless payments are fast, easy, secure, and accepted worldwide at all Maestro-enabled contactless terminals. Tap for transactions equivalent to or less than 100 NAF, or the US dollar equivalent. You will receive notifications via email anytime you tap. Tap, tap, and pay fast with WIB. For more information, visit our website at wib-bank.net. Tap and go with your partner in progress.
Welcome back, viewers. You're watching SXM Daily News. And as we continue now in Carnival-related news, the COVID-19 pandemic forced the St. Martin Carnival Development Foundation, the SCDF, to cancel Carnival 2020, which was no small feat. However, President of the SCDF, Alison Lawrence, speaking to our news department, says that Carnival 2020 was not canceled, it was just postponed.
And we still maintain that we never canceled the 51st edition of Carnival, okay? So we postponed the 51st annual Carnival celebration. We saw what was happening in the world. We are at a peak time of planning. We are at a great part of promotion just about to start, and the whole world is quite uneasy. And the numbers start to fly up, and we start to worry. And literally hours before our last opening day to purchase season passes or register for booths, our last registration day was the Friday. And Thursday evening, through us asking the government and also the government realizing what's about to happen, because for the whole week, myself and Michael, we were contacting everyone in government to know what is government saying, because we are just on the brink of making decisions that really you can't turn back on again. And we had a meeting with the Prime Minister, myself and Michael, and we other parts. CPS was there, I believe, different ministries. And a very quick meeting. It was first time in such a short notice I've seen a meeting like that, so we took it serious.
All of the stakeholders came on board.
Yeah, we were on standby for a couple days.
The president of SCDF also alluded to the meeting that was recently held about Carnival 2021 and told us what was discussed.
First of all, it was just great to see each other as board members again. We haven't seen each other in however long we've been locked down. So to just meet and find out where everybody is with their family, that was first and foremost. And to find out what everybody's thinking about it, because we all are reading news from all around the region about carnivals being cancelled, and with Trinidad recently being cancelled. But last year we were cancelled. We were one of the first to be cancelled. Trinidad had theirs, other places.
Yeah, because Trinidad and St. Kitts happens like early in the year.
So
January, December, January, February.
So we also have to soberly realize that they are now experiencing what we did already. And be realistic. Everybody kind of had the same energy, like let's realistically see what we could do. Let's prepare for, some hope in the world. Let's prepare for, if there's a vaccine, let's prepare. If there's not a vaccine, let's prepare plan A, B, C, D, E, and then let's talk to the government. Let's make sure we don't want no surprises. So we are going to request a meeting with the government soon about it, and present to them the ideas that we are planning right now. So the board is very, very busy right now, speaking every day since this meeting and putting together what we think can be a couple options to make sure that we don't miss two carnivals. And the economic activity around carnival. Those bootholders, they're moving on to next year as well. They invested already for this season. So that is actually the goal. How we could do this.
And as we end this edition of SXM Daily News for this evening, His Majesty King Willem Alexander has spoken to personnel of organizations that provide medical care during the corona outbreak in the Caribbean part of the kingdom via an online video conversation on Wednesday, October the 14th, 2020. The King spoke to, among others, the chairman of the General Practitioners Association on Aruba, Java, about the current situation regarding the coronavirus and the way in which family doctors are dealing with the crisis situation. The King also spoke to employees of the hospital, the laboratory services, and the Ministry of Public Health, Social Affairs, and Labor on St. Martin about the consequences of the corona outbreak here and the impact of the crisis on their work. On October the 29th, the King will hold similar video conversations with the medical sector on Curaçao. Through telephone and online conversations and, where possible, working visits, King Willem Alexander and Queen Maxima informed themselves about the consequences of the corona outbreak and conveyed their support and appreciation for the efforts of so many in combating the pandemic. And with that, viewers, we've come to the end of this edition of SXM Daily News for this evening. I am Valerie Van Putten, thanking you so much for joining me. And just a reminder that this and other programs are available online. Simply log on to stmartinmediacenter.com for viewing. And on behalf of the SXM Daily News team, we thank you so much for watching and plan on meeting you right back here again tomorrow.